I'm today's Christian Girl Director, Debbie Sanders, working under Ladies Ministries. Today I want to talk to you about keeping church girls in the church. You might agree with me that as a parent, a youth worker, or someone that has a heart for young people, our number one goal in dealing with them is to instill a deep love for God in their hearts and to help make a strong connection between them and the church. Would you agree with me? What can parents and leaders do to help nurture a love for God within the hearts of our girls, our children, our young people? How can we as leaders who have been down the road a bit, if you will, persuade our girls to stay in the church and explain the way so clearly that they buy into this? I began to think, who better to answer than our girls? So I conducted a survey of those that have decided to stay, those that are living for God, not perfectly, but who have made up in their minds that the world is not for them. Who could better explain this than our girls? I talked to girls that were raised in the church, as well as girls who have taken a stand alone in a family that does not live for the Lord. Today, I would like them to speak to you. I want you to hear what impacted their life for good and what threatened and tempted them to walk away. I pray that you'll walk away with insight that might help you as you invest in the lives of young ladies and young people around you. What did your parents, this is a question I asked them, what did your parents and other influencers do right that helped to establish you in the church? One thread that was consistent in almost every one that I surveyed was that they had people loving Jesus and living it out in front of them, and it had a tremendous impact on their life. Jordan said that there were adults in her church that lived this truth out loud. She watched them. She watched their lives. They made living for God fun and attractive. Tina and Madeline said they watched how their parents lived. They were steady and faithful even at home, and they lived out the love of God before them. That made them want to follow suit and to live that same lifestyle. Lexi said that she had people in her life that pushed her to do her best, and get this, they let her know that they believed in her. She said she watched her mom as well as amazing men and women that surrounded her life. She said they offered a safe place, and note this, to ask as many questions as she wanted to. Sharina was a military child and traveled often, but when she visited her godly grandmother each summer and winter break, she was sure to be in church. This grandmother instilled in Sharina the importance of prayer and being consistent in her faith. She took time to pray with her and make sure she learned how to make that connection with God. Morgan said there were people in her life that lived for God before her eyes. This was key in her life. She said who she hung around with and made the difference in whether she wanted to live for God or not. Her message, surround yourself with the right people, because who you hang around with will influence you and have an impact on you. Be picky who you allow your child to hang out with. Do research on the people they're wanting to spend time with. Learn about them. Learn them. There are those in the church who have a youthful outlook. Kids like them and they gravitate toward them. Allow them to speak into the lives of your young girls. It may be someone that is fashionable and fun. Maybe someone sings well or has a great ministry. The girls look up to her. Tap into that influence and utilize them in the lives of your young girls, your TCG members, or your youth. Krista said, don't forget the fun. She said her parents made it fun. Their Christian life was not just always doing spiritual things, but they had movie nights where they invested time just doing something they all enjoyed and spending downtime together. She said they had so much fun and laughter in their home. Contrary to most of you, our girls and our young people are not going to pray all day. They just don't necessarily walk around their home speaking in tongues. If you can stop and get on their level and just have fun without you even realizing it, you will make this life that you're asking them to live more appealing and more enjoyable. Alexa said she had a TCG director that in a fun way taught them the importance of uncut hair. She said the director gave everyone giant pink sponge rollers, and around the sponge roller was written the scriptures and little drawings about what the Bible has to say about hair. At today's Christian Girl, we teach our directors to teach in a fun way. If you're going to teach on hair, do it like this. One club had a PowerPoint on the importance of uncut hair and what the significance is of hair in the Bible. Then they made crazy hairdos on each other. They posted their pictures. They shared them with each other or had pictures to post on social media. That is a night the girls won't soon forget. Alexis said, my daughter said, we made living for God fun. Even things like picking out an Easter dress. We had fun shopping, but we made an obvious effort to help them choose clothes that were godly and modest. Even this past year during COVID, when nothing was open except Sam's and Costco and Home Depot and Walmart and Target, my husband gave the okay for myself and our 3 grown daughters now to go find an Easter outfit. So off to Target we went. The dressing rooms were closed. There was not a lot of godly outfits and dresses there, but we spent a great amount of time and had so much fun finding something new to wear to our online Easter service. Alexa said we didn't make holiness a big deal. We just lived it. And when a question arose about something that didn't necessarily fall in the guidelines of what was godly, we'd simply say, no, we're not going to do that. I used to reward my girls for right attitudes. One time, one of my daughters came out of her bedroom dressed for church, and her blouse was kind of low, and I said, you know, you might want to put a tank top with that. So she went back in her room, and she did so with a great attitude. I got to thinking about that, so the next day I talked to her, and I said, you know, I really appreciate your attitude and being okay with adjusting your clothes. I said, because of that, I want to take you, and we're going to buy you several tank tops that you can use and that you like. I did the same for my other 2 daughters. One of them was in an elementary class where the teachers often had background music playing. And after a while, the teacher asked the kids if they were okay with that type of music. I think it was Michael Jackson or something. My daughter Brooklyn spoke up and said, that's not the kind of music that I listen to. So boy, did she get it, because all the kids were so upset because the teacher changed the music to ballet music now, and they didn't like it quite as much. I applauded her for standing up and speaking out when she was the only one. So I took her to a Bible bookstore, and I said, you can choose any Christian CD you want. What I was doing was rewarding her and helping her to understand. I reiterated the importance of music in her life and its effects on her walk with God. I also cheered her on for standing up and standing out. In my 3rd daughter's classroom, Jordan's classroom, the teacher asked if everyone was okay to watch a certain movie. Jordan remembered that she had been told there were curse words in this movie, and so she said, I am not comfortable with that. So the teacher excused her, sent her to the next classroom until the movie was over. Now, what child wants to do that? But I was so proud of her, and I gave her a choice of whatever movie she wanted to buy within our family guidelines, and I purchased that for her. By those actions, I was able to teach my girls in a fun way that they did the right thing to speak up, that I was so proud of them to be able to stand out from the crowd and what everyone else was doing. And I reiterated to them the lessons that I and others had taught them about living a godly life and about the importance of guarding their actions so they could stay close to God. Alexis wanted to go to a dance that her school here in the Hawaii district was having. So all the children, all the kids that went through the DARE programs, the program to teach kids not to be involved in drugs, be able to say no, they were all going to have a dance at a big convention center downtown. When I told Alexis I didn't want her to go, she was initially upset. But Mom, I won't dance. I'm just going to be with my friends, and I'm going to eat the food that they're providing. I said, look, here's the deal. The music that they are playing, it's not going to be music that we listen to, and so that's really going to bug you. And I said, since everybody's going to ride the bus down there, you're just going to be stuck there. You don't want to be stuck there all day. Still, she was not happy. I tell you what, I told her, let's do this instead. On the day of your field trip, I'll keep you out of school. You grab a friend, I'll take you to breakfast, and we'll go shopping. Well, that got her attention. So sure enough, she missed that day of school. And it didn't matter to me if it was excused or not. I was investing in her spirituality and helping her to look at possible scenarios so that she could make good decisions before she was ever in the midst of situations. Does that make sense? Her friend couldn't miss that day. She went to another school in a different area of the island. And so Alexis and I met cousins, aunties, and uncles down Waikiki for a breakfast. And then we had a great time and spent the day shopping. In that simple act and in a fun way, I was able to establish in my daughter what helps and what hinders your walk with God. Pitfalls to avoid and actions that she wouldn't want to be a part of. I didn't have to preach to her about the sin of ungodly music. Instead, I said, they're probably not going to be playing Splish Splash, I Was Taking a Bath. Instead, it's probably going to be hip-hop music that the kids like, and we don't even like that. So that's probably going to irritate you. And in the way that I worded it, I was able to let her know, you don't like hip-hop. Does that make sense? Brooklyn said, we didn't preach, you guys have to do this. But instead, it was presented in a nonchalant way. This is life, and this is how we live it. Here's the deal. As a parent or a leader, you want to be able to say yes to as many things and situations as you possibly can, so that when you say no, they know you're for real. You can preach and lecture, but that will get old and boring after a while, and they'll begin to tune you out. That's why at Today's Christian Girl, we teach our directors to find fun ways to get your points across, such as the pink sponge roller. I want to talk to you about involvement. Krista said one thing that her mom and others did was connected her to have purpose in the church. They gave her things to do, ways to lead, opportunities to get involved. She said when a young girl or a young person is given something to do in the church, that it feeds into her self-esteem. They will come to the conclusion, I can do something for God. I can make a difference. Chloe was new to the church and noticed that she dressed differently than the girls in the church did. So when my daughter Alexis came to me and told me that Chloe had a request to be taught about holiness, bless her heart, I told Alexis, why don't you teach her? And so at a young age, she began to dig out the whys of holiness. And as she taught Chloe, she was teaching herself, and she saw and understood the principles of holiness in the Word of God. She also taught a friend about holiness out of Ruth Harvey's Kingdom Kids series book. Excellent series. They're just little cartoon type books that have truths about living right and about holiness. Caleb, because I also surveyed some guys as well, said everybody has something that anchors them to the church. Find out what that is. Of course, God is our anchor, he said. But aside from that, we find something that we love or that we can relate to. For him, his anchor was helping out in the media team by just posting videos and making videos and making postings. He felt like he had purpose in the church. Then he was asked to usher. From there, he was asked to be a parking attendant. All of these made him feel like he had a role in the church. It tied him to the church. Finally, the opportunity opened up for him to be involved in the music, something he loved at and excelled at. Today, Caleb is the music team president at Christian Life College. Somebody invested in him. He learned that even when he didn't feel like going to church, his love or his anchor held him there and caused him to keep going. Give them a job to do. Get them involved. Can they greet, work in the nursery, work in children's ministries? I was 12 years old when my pastor asked me to teach. First it was nursery, and then it was kindergartners. Can they fold flyers? Can they sing on the praise team? Can they play second keys during the praise and worship service, or even at the altar call time? Can they help clean the church or sit with a mother that is few too many kids than she can keep control of? Find a way to anchor them in the church. How about sharing sharing outcomes of when bad choices are made? One young lady said what helped her to stay in the church was she watched her siblings, some of the bad choices that they made and how things turned out for them. She learned from that. Give them statistics of how many suicides take place among those that have had a sex change. There are facts out there that we can present to our kids to let them know truths. Gender issues, huge today. Let them know. Talk about abortion and tell about the guilt that women have for the rest of their lives. Bring in someone to show the stages of a fetus from month to month until that baby is born. Make it real so that they can get a hold of facts and truths. Talk about when a young girl gets pregnant out of wedlock and discuss the difficulties she'll have raising a child so young and how drastically her life will be changed. Tell them the blessings of staying pure until marriage. I asked them, what did others do that assisted you in making your own habits and relationship with God? Krista said that one thing that kept her in the church was building that love relationship with God, that one-on-one relationship with God. Otherwise, she said, nothing else matters. She said learning how to pray was key, how to talk to him, build a friendship with God. You know, sometimes we have to break it down for them, how to do it. Don't expect them just to pray and enjoy it. They may need instructions. I'll never forget when I was given the prayer wheel as a teenager. It made praying so easy for me, broke it down in 5-minute increments. Krista said there are different types of learners. People have different ways that they learn to connect with God. Some are more comfortable writing out their prayers. Some are visual learners, so they may pull up a chair, picture God there, and have a conversation with him. Don't expect your church girls or church kids just to get it by osmosis. They need to be taught and to learn the whys and the hows of living for God. Teach them about fasting and why it is so vital and important in their walk with God. Have group fasting so they can encourage each other and hold each other accountable. Sharina said that her grandmother fasted with her until she was mature enough to know how to do it on her own. She said they would fast 1 meal at a time. And then Sharina said one day her grandmother hit her with, "We're fasting till 5 o'clock. Sharina said, "This is punishment. There is no way Jesus wants us to go hungry all day." But her grandmother instilled habits in her that have lasted and grounded Sharina and formed her ministry today. Teach them about reading the Word. Have a contest. At our church, we had a Bible revival. We shared pictures on the screen of different places and ways that we read the Bible. On the bus, in the car, on a swing, we shared fun pictures of our children reading the Word of God, all to establish a good habit in a fun way. Tina said that her dad would often ask her point blank if she had been reading her Bible. He asked about her prayer life. Was she spending time in prayer? She said she did not appreciate it at the time, but it kept her thinking about it, and now she is grateful for him holding her accountable. Morgan said getting to know God for herself was key. She tried to get involved in many things her first year of Bible college, but wasn't chosen for anything she tried out for. She said her relationship with God was lagging. She said that she wanted to be used so bad, but God wanted her to get to know him first. That is a foundation for our entire life. Katie was a military kid. They moved often, which meant that in some stations there were no churches nearby, and her mother became her Sunday school teacher. Thank God for a pastor and wife back home in Maryland who faithfully sent Sunday school material for their family to use. Being the new kid and having to initiate conversations was not easy for Katie. She longed to have someone to share her heart with. And that's when she turned to Jesus. He became the friend that understood her hurts and joys that she shared with him through her walk of life. We cannot expect our girls just to know why we do what we do. It is vital that we teach them, as I said, the whys and the hows. There was a time that kids were taught to be okay with being seen and not heard, but that day is gone. I don't even know if that was the best way. Yes, our children were taught respect, and I do understand that's vital. But if someone, a child, a young person, even an adult, has questions and wants to ask, it's okay to ask. You know why? Because we have answers. We should be able to show them in the Word of God so that when they're alone or with a group of friends and the peer pressure is hot, they will be able to reach down inside of themselves and know what they believe and why they believe it. We must teach them that in some situations, if it is not spelled out directly, their situation is not spelled out directly in the Word of God, you must follow the principles of the Word of God. Take time to teach them. Encourage them to ask questions, like Lexi said, as many as they need to ask, so they'll have answers when they don't understand. One girl said, people leave the church because they don't understand why we live and why we walk like we do. They don't understand and they don't know better. That's why I love this series of books that Ladies Ministries, along with author Lori Wagner and Bonnie Marshall, wrote as well, the Girl in the Dress series. We cover hair issues in the book called Covered, purity issues, The Pure Life, issues of dress and modesty, The Girl in the Dress, and my personal favorite, Unmasked, which talks about tattoos and piercings, which are seen everywhere. If we don't teach our girls why these things are wrong and our young people, we are at fault, and how can we expect them to know? The world is constantly, consistently feeding them with wrong answers. The answers they give are in absolute contradiction to the Word of God. Our voice, the voice of the church, must be louder than the voice of the world. I asked, what helped you to fall in love with God and with the church? Lexi said growing up with several siblings, she felt that she was not as talented and gifted as her siblings, that she fell short in so many areas except the church. Lexi said church was where she thrived. She loved people and they loved her right back. Lexi said before she fell in love with God, she fell in love with his people. In God, she discovered that she was enough and that he had chosen her. Katie said the one thing that made her fall in love with the Lord was observing people go through different things, not necessarily all detrimental, but different waves of life, and watching how strongly they were devoted to following after Jesus. They showed her no matter what storm came their way, it was so much better to be with Jesus in the storm than on their own. Katie, now 21, says that it reminds her today that someone is always watching your life, so live it well. Sharina was born with many health issues. She only had half of her left lung, and she was told that she would not live past the age of 13. Sharina said the church came through for her, praying and believing when she didn't have the strength to. Just a few years ago, when her left lung died completely, God performed a mighty miracle, and he replaced that dead lung that was only 1/2 part there with a brand new, completely formed lung. Oh, thank God for the church and the prayers of the people of God and their investment in Sharina's life as a young girl. Alexis said, teaching kids to have their own relationship with God is the strongest defense to kids leaving the church, keeping them in the church. Dan said to me, we got to be rooted in God. Psalms 1 and 3. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. I asked, what were temptations that could have taken you out of church? Were there pitfalls that you almost fell into? If so, could there have been something that your parents or others could have done to make you more aware of those traps? Abigail said, something that almost made me fall out of church was school. I felt lonely sometimes and left out. I wondered, why am I so different looking? Abby said, I think school is a test where you go and see where you stand and how strong you are and how able you are to stand up and to be different. If we can help our kids to be okay with standing out in school, where peer pressure is such an issue, then I'm convinced we will help to set the foundation for them standing up and standing out later in life. One young lady said one thing that was really big for her was pornography. She said, I was exposed to it at a very young age, and I struggled with it into my young adulthood. I was absolutely disgusted with myself, and I didn't know how to talk to people about it. I did not know how to ask for help. Jordan said what could have taken her out was if she had not formed habits that kept her close to God. Having her own personal relationship with God was key. One young lady said what could have taken her from church was a boy that she loved that really did not have priorities in living for God. And when he later chose to be with a girl in the world, she was threatened to cut her hair, lose her holiness, and to become more attractive to him. At TCG, we have sessions about boys. After all, girls like boys. And actually, in today's world, that's a good thing. Of course, you'll teach it when it's age appropriate, but different today's Christian girl groups have had Valentine's parties where all the girls have to bring a date, with one slight difference. They have to make him. So they'll make him out of balloons, they'll make him out of a broom, they cut the bristles off the top, paint his hair brown, red, whatever. Some bring a cardboard cutout, and then we discuss, when it is time for you to date, these are the characteristics you will look for in a boy. And of course, you're not going to look in the world. You're going to look in the church. Music was a big issue for Morgan. She loved rock, but she said it messed up her mentality, her way of thinking. She noticed when she listened to it, she felt mean. I've noticed a growing trend in our youth, and even in our adults, to allow music that is unchristian into their lives and their young people. Artists like Adele, Shawn Mendes, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, they feel that their content and lyrics aren't necessarily talking about anything bad. So I asked my daughter Brooklyn, who loves music, about it. She said, those spirits are going to go into your life. She discovered that it's not those genres of music, unchristian music, are not going to push you toward God. Music is a big issue with our youth. They won't necessarily like our style of Christian music. Anu's answer is to when she's walking through the mall, to put on an earphone, maybe just in one ear, and totally jam out to your own fun style of Christian music as you shop. Morgan's answer to walking away from ungodly music was to find genres that were godly and fun. Lexi said, I wish we talked about taboo things more, the real things, life things that I heard in public school or I learned from other people. There are a lot of things that are really scary, she said, and difficult to talk about that I wish were not that way. I feel like they should be normalized because they're real, they're present in our lives. At today's Christian Girl, our directors are encouraged to talk about issues that our girls are facing today. As it was stated, as I stated earlier, if we let the world give them answers, they will be in direct opposition to this word and the truths in this word. Basically, they will believe a lie and be damned. Another young lady who had a strong relationship with her father, it was boys and men, men when she got older, even in the church, that could have taken her out, longing for that relationship and attention, because she said we all want to be loved and we want to belong. Krista said everyone wants a community, a sense of belonging. We need that in our churches. The most common thread in these responses is that these girls had people that were strong influences in their life, not just pastors and preachers, not just dads and moms, but strong influences in the church. The truth is, it is all of our responsibilities to see to it that our young people remain in truth. The church should be a safe place. It should be a place where though mistakes are made and people fall, after all, the church is made up of very imperfect humans. But when someone falls, there should be 5 more on the side saying, it's okay, brush yourself off, get up again, I believe in you, and you know what? I'm going to walk alongside of you. Katie understands that many girls leave the church for relationships with guys outside of the church, but from her vantage point, she has noticed that some have left the church because they have no connection to the church. Females are social creatures and in need of friendships. You find mean girl culture in the church, and you can find exclusion, Katie said, rather than inclusion in some churches. The world is big on accepting everyone and their differences, she said, but the church needs to be the same. By loving all who come through our doors, we will not hold the door open for them to walk away from the church and from Jesus. Well said, Katie. Katie went on to give a solution. Encourage your girls just to say hello. It takes 5 seconds to help someone feel a little bit more comfortable. Jesus didn't treat others differently based on who they were, sinners. But make sure you do show a genuine care for someone. People know if you're faking or not. Encourage a culture that says we all need one another to get through this life. Isn't that awesome? As leaders of our youth, we set the rules for how they treat each other, and we lead by examples. We can discuss proper behavior, how to look at people that are different than us. Some girls have easy, enjoyable personalities. Others may be irritating or obnoxious. They may not make friends easily. We can help in those situations. We can provide icebreakers or games that show everyone has similarities and insecurities. We set the culture, the atmosphere for all of our girls to feel loved, valued, and accepted. The church should be a place where someone's failures are not repeated to others over and over, shared and shared. Instead, it should be a place of, to be honest, I've messed up too. But God is a forgiving and a merciful God, and it's not over yet. You're going to be okay. The church should, yes, be a place of doctrine, sound teaching, biblical truths, but it should also be a place of fun, relationships, friendships between varied ages, and a family outside of our biological family. There are different ways to teach our young. Church services are most common, and though vital to our relationship with God, are not the only way. One-on-one time spent across a restaurant table, in a park, ice cream in hand, or on the jogging trail, keeping each other accountable, motivated in the way of exercise. Church happens when young people spend time with a fun adult at their house, doing crafts, enjoying meals together, or just hanging. Church happens when our youth are playing ball together, having a water balloon fight. Hanging out with people of like precious faith is key. Having adults that are strong, positive, godly examples is vital. Every church needs a Jaime and a Stephanie, a minister family in our church. On Sunday nights, the young people are welcome. Everyone drives through a fast food place and heads to the Ruiz household. Jaime and Stephanie may add snacks as well. Sometimes they play games, sometimes they just talk and laugh. They may have a talent show or sing praise and worship songs at top volume, but it is a fun, safe place for our kids to hang out. Even when their kids were gone this summer, everyone was still welcome. It's a reiteration of what the church is, and the Ruizes, in a fun way, have helped to cement our young people in the church. Not all will get it. Some, as the prodigal son, will choose to walk away. But if we train them in the way they should go, if we make it easy for them to come back, that they experience our love and our care, then hopefully, eventually, they'll return to truth shown and lived out in front of them. How do we keep church girls in the church? How can we make sure our young people don't walk away? It takes all of us. Reaching out, investing, reaffirming, nurturing, loving, forgiving, overlooking, loving again, instructing, teaching, guiding, and believing in them. They don't have to be raised in the church. Actually, that's not a guarantee that they will stay. They were raised in the church. But a connection must be made. A relationship with God must be formed. And together with programs like Today's Christian Girl, where you meet in clubs in your own individual church once a month, you talk about issues that girls face. One meeting may be at the park, the next meeting may be at the zoo, the next meeting you're just having a fun day and washing people's cars, doing something for them in a ministry like Today's Christian Girl. And with people like you, we can all accomplish this great task of keeping church girls in the church. Check us out, www.todayschristiangirl.com.